When a giant shark was caught at sea, fishermen quickly realized that something was wrong. It moved extremely slowly and had an unnatural bulge on its body. When a veterinarian cut the animal open to reveal the cause of the bulge, no one could believe what they were seeing. But how did the shark get so close to the shore? When the fisherman called the veterinarian, he decided to come immediately. This shark needed to be cut open because there was obviously something in its stomach that shouldn't be there. It might even be a life or death situation. When the vet finally arrived, he quickly sedated the almost lifeless giant shark. It was not the first time he had performed such a procedure, but he was still nervous. This was not his trusted clinic, but the seashore. Anything could happen here. When the vet carefully opened the shark's huge lump, the contents were immediately revealed, and everyone's jaw dropped to the floor. How was this possible? But did the vet get there in time to save the shark? What did they find inside the shark, and why was the vet so surprised? For the past couple of months, fishing in the Gulf Stream has been continuous. The fishermen have been working very hard to make sure they catch enough fish to keep the customers happy, but that hasn't always been easy, and their lives have become even more difficult. It's been a slow, difficult process in terms of getting the fish to the markets. It has been a challenge due to the lack of available boats and the constant dangers from sharks. This has slowed progress significantly, but there is one thing that worries them more. The fishermen are way behind schedule. They started to worry because their employer is threatening to take action if they don't finish the job on time. The boss was even thinking of firing them, so the fishermen knew they had to work as hard as they could. They could not afford to keep working any slower. Their boss gave them an ultimatum until the end of the month or he would fire them. So they decided to work in the afternoon as well. But little did they know that they were about to face another big obstacle. When the fishermen went back to fishing in the morning, after working in the afternoon the day before, one of the fishermen suddenly jumped back. He had seen something swimming in the sea that scared him so much that he almost fell off the boat. It was a shark, but not just any shark. It was the biggest shark they had ever seen in their entire lives. And the scariest thing was that it was slowly making its way through the boat. It was unbelievable. The fishermen hoped it would pass quickly so they could continue, but it seemed that the shark had decided to settle around the boat. The fishermen were frightened and surprised at the same time. What should they do? They already noticed that the animal was moving rather slowly. But why was the shark moving slowly? Then, one of the fishermen saw what could be causing this problem to the shark. When the giant shark was halfway out of the water, a giant lump could be seen on its body. The fishermen could hardly believe their eyes. They had never seen anything like this before. Action had to be taken. With the shark now firmly in the spot, they decided to fish. The fishermen knew they had to do something, but even though they knew they had to do something, they were also very scared. So one of the fishermen tried to catch the shark. "No!" the other fisherman shouted. They warned their fishing partner that the shark might act aggressively in these conditions, as it could try to defend itself if it feels threatened. So the fishermen came up with another solution. They decided that they will have to call someone and try to locate the nearest vet. At the end of the call with the vet, the worker who called him reacted in shock. The vet says that the shark might be pregnant and about to give birth, close to the shore of the beach. To make sure this is so, the vet has a dangerous task for the fisherman. She asked the fisherman to find out where exactly the lump is on the body. To do this, the shark has to be lying on land. Most of the fishermen were hesitant to do this. What if the shark attacks them? Then one of them takes control of the situation. The brave fisherman decides that he will position himself in the most dangerous spot to make sure the others are safe. Then, two other brave fishermen decided that they were going to pull the shark's tail to try to stretch it out. Luck was on their side as they did this. The head is quite far from the end of the tail, so the chances of it being able to bite them are slim, especially considering how slow the shark was moving before. But they still didn't want to take any chances. So, they took extra safety measures. The two men try to equip themselves with some of the toughest materials they can find, while another fisherman joins them to distract the shark if necessary. With lead in their shoes, the two men grab the shark's tail. All the fishermen hold their breath, hoping that everything will go according to plan. But they needn't have worried, as the shark didn't put up any resistance and let itself be stretched almost completely. It is becoming increasingly clear that something is terribly wrong with this animal. Now, the fishermen can see where on the body the bulge is located and call the veterinarian to inform her of their finding. The fishermen are curious about what to do next, as they have never seen a shark give birth. But the vet's tone changes immediately when she hears where the lump is. If the lump were due to pregnancy, it would be located much farther back on the body. The lump is more or less at the beginning of the stomach, which means it is something that probably can't enter the shark's body. But what could be inside this shark? Clearly, the shark had swallowed something it shouldn't have, and probably required immediate surgical intervention if it was to survive. There was no time to lose, but the fishermen didn't know what to do. So they asked the vet, should she come with them, or should they take the shark to her? They hoped it was the first option. But for the vet, getting to where the fishermen were was a challenge in itself, as she didn't know the exact location of either the shark or the fishermen. Plus, it was rush hour, so she would probably run into a traffic jam. But she had to get there as quickly as possible to give the shark the best chance of survival. One of the fishermen set out to pick her up, but that would take too long. However, there were people in the company's warehouse who knew exactly where the fishermen were and how to get there. So, the veterinarian decided to go to the company's warehouse. After explaining the situation to her, a manager was willing to help her and use their off-road Jeep to drive around the beach, which is never easy. The veterinarian experienced one hell of a ride. The trip takes about 3 hours in total, a journey in which the vet pondered many times whether this shark's life was worth wasting an entire extra day on it. Other animals in need might have needed her help as well. But as she made a decision that she was going to have to stick to, after 3 hours, she reached the shark, and when she was finally able to lay eyes on it, she knew instantly that it had been worth all this effort. On the shore, the fishermen were also struggling with how long they had to wait for the doctor. Their fear soon became the reality. The shark had no intention of staying in its current spot and would want to attack at any moment. The fishermen did not know what to do next. Some fishermen wanted to let it go, as that meant they could finally get on with their work. Why were they so worried about a shark in the first place? It was just an animal. They wanted to keep doing their work because they wanted to make sure they finished before the deadline. But there wasn't much consensus around the whole group of fishermen. Others had taken the doctor's word at face value and knew that if they let the shark go now, it would surely die. Luckily for the shark and the doctor, this group was in the majority. The shark was still trying to attack, so the fishermen were able to block it with the metal plates they had brought as supplies. But this measure had one major drawback. They could not block the shark completely, so they had to keep moving to keep blocking the shark's path. Naturally, the animal was irritated by this, and the fishermen had to be careful. The fishermen became concerned. Is this the right thing to do? A shark of this size, even if it wasn't in great shape, could easily kill one of them if it got a hold of them. The fishermen knew they had to trust each other. It became a team effort in which even those who wanted to let the shark go helped. When the veterinarian finally arrived on the scene, the shark was still lying in the same spot. But it was becoming increasingly obvious that this would not be the case for long, as the shark had become really aggressive. The shark did not like being blocked and instantly targeted the fishermen holding the plate. Many of the fishermen had already been close, but the fear of the shark increased to an all-time high. Some fishermen let go of the tag and ran back. The veterinarian had to act quickly and knew the only chance was to quickly sedate the shark. But sedating the shark was not without certain risks. There was always a risk that the shark would not wake up, considering the state in which it was in. But seeing that it was actively trying to attack the fishermen, the doctor was confident that it would survive the injection. All that was left was to approach the shark with the tranquilizers. The veterinarian waited until the shark had its head turned in another direction, then slowly approached the shark and quickly injected the sedative into its lower body. Now, they had to wait until the shark was fully sedated. Over the next 2 minutes, the shark slowed down more and more, and the veterinarian was able to inject it with a couple more sedatives, necessary for a shark of this size to pass out completely. After a while, the shark was completely unconscious. Some fishermen knelt down from exhaustion. They had faced possible death numerous times before, so they were relieved to have survived. Now the vet could finally turn her attention to the big lump of the shark she had really come for. She pulls her surgery kit out of the big Jeep in the company warehouse and gets it ready to get to work. Quickly, she is able to confirm her suspicions that the object is stuck at the entrance of the shark's stomach by palpitating its body. The object stuck in its body was something the shark had swallowed that could not be broken down by the digestive system. There was only one thing for the veterinarian to do. At this point, there is nothing else to do but carefully open the shark and remove the object. But surgery always carries a risk, especially if it has to be done in the middle of the wild. But there is no other option available. With the utmost precision and care, the veterinarian opens the shark along with the protrusion and, after going through the skin, muscle, and esophagus, the source of the protrusion is finally revealed to all. But it's not what they expected it to be. Out of the shark came a strange pouch, which puzzled the vet at first. But the fishermen soon knew what it was and realized what had happened. But the fishermen also realized that this was not good news for the shark. This bag was their tool bag, in which they kept most of their items, such as fishing rods. However, the rod in it was broken, so they threw it into the sea. The bag also contained food, such as meat, but they still could not understand how the shark found this bag, as they thought they had thrown it somewhere on the shore. The shark must have caught the smell of the meat and thought it was prey, so it swallowed it whole. But unfortunately, it did not take long to learn the consequences of a mistake that could be fatal. Once the bag is removed, the veterinarian quickly begins to sew the shark back up. While doing so, she also puts a chip in the shark to track its movement and see if it survives the long-term ordeal. They then wake the shark up, hoping that it is no longer aggressive. It takes a few minutes for the shark to wake up. At first, it is still dazed and confused, but after a while, it starts to crawl much faster than before the operation. After the shark disappeared back into the waters, the vet had one thing left to do. She thanked the fishermen for their incredible effort to keep the shark and themselves safe. After this, she went back to town, where she has more patients waiting for her. To make sure the shark was okay, the veterinarian did one last thing. She monitored the shark's behavior through the chip she placed in it. The shark is behaving normally, and the veterinarian can say with confidence that the operation was a success. She has saved the animal's life. This story is a work of fiction created for entertainment. The characters and events are the product of the author's imagination. The images shown are for illustrative purposes only.